Sangobese, Mnqobokazi, Sikhali, Sangweni, Lutonga, Lugilima, Nyamenja, Ngwadi, Masengasileke, Ndukusi Nobulongwe, Ntungwa, Hlungwane, Sobhuza, Ngwane, Bayede.
Siyabingelela buti Ngwane sithembe niyaphila umshengu la. Unyaka sewuphelile sithemba ukuthi khamba kahle ngakuwe konke. Hayi nokungathi kuzamekile lo nyaka kuphantekile ngiyabona ngathi ubusy ngempela so kuthiwa ngikiye kancane mhlambe sobona kahle makuqala the first week of uJanuary mhlambe sobe siqala sinyakaza. Mhlawumbe kumele avive silungisele ukuza ngalapho kuwena. There are a couple of things ekumele ngipresente kuwena and then as an update then we can move on. One, it is the celebrating this golden age of cinema project. So I hope we've not forgotten. We need to get that up and running. The second project is the Zulu Honorary Citizenship and Awards Project. The third project is the SHEMBE. SHEMBE has over 6 million followers. So there are so many things we are planning on doing as if time allows. One of them is launching a radio station 24 hours that talks about SHEMBE, nothing else but SHEMBE. And also we could work out the benefits thereof. And then I thought we could do a movie. A movie about SHEMBE. Obviously I have some draft that now maybe I will present it to you. Possibly you can creative produce or direct, whichever way possible. But there is also an episode, a religious themed episode that I wanted to look at, inspired by SHEMBE, but also we could integrate other religious movements in between. I've spoken to some of the guys from the SHEMBE, the researchers and the Befundisi. So I needed your assistance in terms of interviewing them. We may have to help me get a recorder or put them to a studio. Through them we could then put together a concrete research through which we could use for these projects. Yes.
Indiza nje around ihambe bathi lenkanyezi mive ngalena muyibona yayikhanyisa ikhanya ngaphezulu kokukhanya kwethoshi mubuka phansi ibingafani nokukhanya kwenyanga bikhanya ngaphezulu kwenyanga ibiphezulu kodwa la mikhanyisa phansi ubungacothi night 1909 lonke kusho ukuthi kuthe ngo1910 imhla ka10 ngo1910 manje iqale ngo1909 ngomhla ka10 1910 yawo lo 1910 ewa ngayo kwakuusuku aphuma ngalo umqalo wobuNazaretha emzini wakhe ethi ngiyahamba manje sengiyala uNkulunkulu ethi angiye khona wahamba mehamba wayese umthetho wakhe kwakufanele emakhosini kaZulu uNkulunkulu ethi aqale emakhosini kaZulu ngephutha noma ngenhlanhla ingilozi yasheshayo kwa ingilozi yase South Coast okuyona yaqhamuka kuqala kuyena ukuze aqaleke afikele ngase South Coast.
Yes.
Endaweni ethi ubheka uMesiya. Uma uzoqala uthole khona. Wafikela ngakhona, mefikela ngakhona kwayimandebhu yake eza ngala. Kodwa inkanyezi iwelela yona.
Yes.
Isho ukuthi usiyasuka ukuwa kwayo yayisho ukuthi usiyasuka. Siyasuka ngakho. Mesuka kwenzeka isimanga. Uyaqoqa uthi uNkulunkulu sengiyaphuma manje ngiyala ngibezela khona. Ufake ingubo esukesini usebenzile umphako wakhe wenza yonke into umakho umlungisela yonke into kwathwalalela ndoda awuzophatha sikhwama awuzophatha lutho uzophatha leli ishumbu lakho kuphela awuphathi ingubo zokushintsha from Harry Smith uzala akanikwe imali yokugibela uzohamba ngonyawo waphuma wahamba ngangokuthi wahamba kwaze waguga ingubo ayigqokile wafika la waqala ke wakhibandla
ubani wayethe awuzohamba izwi
likaNkulunkulu lwambizayo waze wafika la was 1910 efika eNatal. Kodwa into yokuqala yakhomba ukuthi uyeza kwaba inkanyezi yawayo.
Abantu babengazi nzalana.
Abantu basebazi ukuthi khona uzayo ngoba 1906 kusuka indoda ekuthiwa uNkabinde mudlula Aiden.
Yes.
Kunendawo elapho kwesenkosi Mkhize. uNkabinde wesuka la. Uthunywa yizwi lithi hamba umemezela usho ukuthi khona ozayo okhanya ngaphezulu kwelanga uzovula isikole esisha sasezulwini nangokuthi abelungu sathi amemezela lapho baze bakumbopha uNkabinde bembopha ethi ukhuluma ukuthi khona ozayo kanti bona izikole bayivulile bathi uzowavala wonke amasonto ngoba uzoveza inkonzo entsha yasezulwini waboshwa uNkabinde 1906 ngo-1906 futhi akakafiki njalo ngawo 1906 uyahamba uye St Helena kuboshwe inkosi yaka kasemthandeni kaGumede iboshiwe uMeseli igama layo iboshelwe indaba yempi yamakhanda ka-1900 ya 1900 uboshelwe yona kufika uShembeke ebusuku kuyena esejele wathi wena uzophuma kodwa mawuphuma ngifuna wazi ukuthi ngiyeza uyobhabhathiswa yini kodwa uzophuma ngampela kwathi ngakusasa uMeseli kade ephupha bamkhiphe jele wafika waxoxa enganeni zakhe ukuthi kunomuntu ozayo wasezulwini okwazi ukubona izinto zingakenzeki okwazi ukubona izinto ezenzeke ngekho ukuthi zenze kuyeza lo muntu ngenhlanhla wafika uMeseli wafika emthandeni esegula uMeseli ngoba kusho ukuthi wawuthi umuboshiwe wawufuka uJobe ngomjovo ozokugulisa wazi wagcina esebona indodana yakhe iyona yakhe ethi inkosi indodana kaMeseli uMagwaza Gumede simbonile ke siyamazi uMagwaza usezala inkosi ekhona manje uBoy Gumede yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so ngoba into bengifuna ukuthola babile ukuthi ukuthinta inkanyezi khona futhi la engizokhona ukuthi engazuthi nasentabeni kwakuba khona isimo seinkanyezi futhi ezayizavela kwangapho ngazuthi khona babethe abakwazanga uyibamba nje kathizeni ukuthi inkanyezi lezi zizungeza zibheka
balinganisa ukuthi kwakuyinkanyezi ngalelo langa uthi
wayengena uNkabinde
wekhona angisazi ukuthi muphi unyaka kodwa la ko-1918 noma ngale kwalokho kwathi kusenkonzweni kwase kuqhamuka ayibanga inkanyezi kwaba into eyodwa ekhanya njengenkanyezi kuthiwa bihamba njengoba kuhlala ngokuhlukana amantombazana abasendaweni yawo amakhosikazi endaweni yawo iy'nsizwa ziba sendaweni yazo
yes
bathi-ke le nto yayifika izule iye ngasemakhosikazi nombane igxume efuna ukuyibamba athi umuntu ufuna ukuyibamba ikhuphukele phezulu izula phakathi kwabo kodwa akekho wakwazi ukuyibamba phakathi kwabo nasemadodeni akekho wakwazi ukuyibamba phakathi kwabo naseyintombini akekho wakwazi ukuyibamba eziyabuyela phezulu mayise iphelile le nto ebijabulelwa abantu uthi niyazi bokwenzakalani bathi babasazi uthi bokufika umoya engcwele uthi kodwa phakathi kwenu ayekho noyedwa obe ngakwazi ukubamba ngoba nisese emhlabeni nizathanda izinto zomhlaba aningakaphumi ezweni
yes
ibingabanjwa kuphela umuntu osephumile ezweni bakhala ngabantu
wayekhona naye
wayekhona naye
bengihlamba
ile ngicaweka
wayebuka
wayekhona kuningi akwenzile esentabeni ngoba esentabeni ngelinye ilanga songena-ke lo umqalo wendlela
yes
sokuyilo wesibili JG
yes
ngelinye ilanga kwakuye ngolesithathu mhlawumbe nangalesi abathatha mbama vele kuzothandazela igoli kodwa ngaleli langa engathi kwakuyisabatha bathi wavele wagxumeka ubhoko phakathi kwabantu wayesethi namhlanje bonke abakhulayo bahlalela bazothandazelwa umfundisi wasezulwini uzofika umfundisi wasezulwini azobathandazela bathi wayesehambe bashiya wayeseyohlala ngasesivivaneni kunendawo ukuthi sesivivaneni la sesibeke khona amatshe mesesihamba bathi wahamba wafika wahlala lapho bathi bezwa kwaqhamuka iphunga elihle elimnandi iphunga kuthiwa bakhala abantu bakhala amadimoni abantu abanye bahlanza ukufa umuntu obathandazelayo kodwa lo moya onephunga elihle kwayiwona okhipha amadimoni kubantu.
Yes.
Kuthiwa-ke kuthe ekugcineni kwakhona intombazane eyodwa eyakhala yangabe isathula yayisishintsha yayisikhuluma into kuyona udimoni lawo liyakhuluma kuyona yasethi mina ngumqali wendlela ngoba kwakho wabiza inkosi ngegama ukuthi kuthiwa baze bayishaya abantu ukuthi ubiza inkosi ngegama unedimoni kuthiwa kwayiwa kobikwa kuyona inkosi ukuthi baba nangu umuntu njengoba ukuthandazelwa nje nangu umuntu ehayiza la uthi ubaba mkhulu umqali wendlela ukubiza wena ngegama sezizamshaya wayesethi yena niyazi ukuthi kwenze njani le ntombazane bathi baba sazi wayesethi le ntombazane yalala nomlungu yathi idimoni labelungu yalala nomlungu yeza la entabeni engahlambulukile kodwa yalala nomlungu yayisithandazelwa-ke engathi kwagcina-ke kuphela.
Okay. Yeah, I think ilokho okuhlukile ukuthi hayibo because uyakwazi ukubona into engajwayelekile uma ngabe uphuthwa ilelo uyakwazi ukuconnect ukuthi umuntu ulwazi ongakulithatha kuphi uma ungakwazi ukubona once you understand unokuxhumana nezulu nezinkanyezi la ukwazi ukuthi uqondanise khona ukuthi ayikho into engamhlula uma ukuthi ukwazi ukuya kuleyo level leyo ngoba kuningi abantu abathi hayi nami ugcina ila udedude khona abantu abaningi. Yeah, no, ephakameni kona akazi ube nezigameko zey'ngelosi.
Ephakameni zibe khona izigameko zey'ngelosi. Owanti bami nje bathi muvuka ngo-4 emthandazweni nga-4 abantu abanamehlo babebona kumhlophe phezu kwey'hlahla ethempelini lapho.
Yes.
Kumhlophe kuyizona.
Kuyingelosi.
Zibe khona impela ifika. Nase kule ndawo esikuyona thina ukuthi seginyezini eTrustfeed kunesihlahla esikhona okuthiwa mezofika omakhelwane baleyo ndawo omunye isixoxe naye nomakhathini wagcina iNazarethani uthi kwakuye ukuthi intambama nje memeze inkonzo ka6 methu uyaphuma abone sokukhona abantu abafaka ingubo ezimhlophe abanamaphiko behleli leso sihlahla uzobasa bese beyazi ukuthi uyeza kuba yeah zikhona lezo hlahla nje lokho zakufoni yami siyibiyele ngamatshe omunye kosaphilo khona siyamlama uthi wathi unini ezocela abantwana engabathola abantwana uthi kwathi uhamba uguqa phansi kwaleso sihlahla uthi waguqa usekutholakala bona.
Through the film and the story, we will also follow the history as written by the late Upetros M. Dlomo. Dlomo details the birth of Umqalwendlela as he was born at Ntabamhlope, the Escort district in the Drakensberg near the giant castle where his forefathers settled. The forefathers escaped from the regiments of the Zulu king Shaga. Later they moved further to Ntabazwe, Harrismith district in the south region of the Orange Free State, the higher Drakensberg mountain. Shembe's family was of pure Zulu breed and originated from Zululand. The father of the prophet Shembe was Umayegisa, the son of Nhliziyo, the son of Umzazela, the son of Usokabuzela, the son of Unyatikazi. They were from the Dunga tribe with the praise name Nhlanzi, or fish from Udonza. The mother of the prophet was Usteya, the daughter of Malindi Hadebe, and was born at Mtimkulu. The son of Shembe, JG, Jonas Galili Shembe, who was a son of the prophet, explained in 1974 that Shembe's grandfather lived in Zululand, but he had to escape from being killed. There he came to a man, came to confront him and told him that the Zulu king wanted to kill him. And then he escaped and settled in the upper country. This was in a very olden times when Shembe and Senzangakona did not yet live. And yet the whites had not arrived. That old Shembe was a great diviner who did not do any evil thing. He only healed the people, even those of the royal family. He had a big homestead in the mountains of Babanango. Then some minions came to the king and said, "Lord, we hear that Shembe makes himself a king." When you think that it is not true, send people to him who should examine whether he is greeted like a king. The king heard these words. He sent spies to the homestead of Mzazela, where they came back. They reported that, yes, indeed, our king, it is the truth. Shembe is greeted like a king. You are now nothing anymore, for Shembe is greeted like a king. The king called the people and said, "What should I do now? I have loved him very much. I had trusted him." They said, "He must be killed." He said, "I do not know what to do, for I loved him very much, but now he must be killed." A man who had heard these words ran to Shembe and confided him, "The Zulu king wants to kill you." He then escaped. This escape was planned by God, so the grandfather of Prophet Shembe came from this place in Mzazela, but I know my grandfather lived at Ntabazwe, where the father was born. In another year, where Shembe was at Ilinda, he spoke about this place. By that time, about 30 years ago, there was a young man who knew this place. It was a farm area of the whites. Later in the olden times, when the Zululand was still ruled by King Senzangakona, 1816 AD, God visited the forefathers who lived in the mountains of Babanango, serving King Senzangakona. Mzazelo, the father of Nhliziyo, was a very righteous man who paid respect to all the people as it was proper. When he was sleeping at night, the word of the Lord came to him, "Mzazela, behold, I shall raise a king of violent temper, Ushaka, from the house of Jama, the father of Senzangakona. He will rule the country with violent temper and will spill blood of many people. I shall build my nation, that all brown people be united in the Zulu kingdom. I advise you to flee together with your children to the upper country in the west, so that the rage of that king may not come down upon you. For from your progeny I shall raise prophets who will save my brown nation, and with this nation which I have established and chosen." Mzazela did not waste any doubt on many thoughts. He rather obeyed the word of the Lord, which spoke repeatedly to him. He gathered all his belongings and moved with his livestock, settled in the west. He was not stiff-necked, obeyed the will of Umvelinqangi. He then moved and settled at Ntabamhlophe in the Drakensberg region. There his son Nhliziyo got married and his father paid the Jew dowry. Nhliziyo begot Mayigisa, was the firstborn son. Also Mayigisa grew up there at Ntabamhlophe. Mzazela named their homestead Nontando Bathakathi, where Mayagisa came to the marriageable age. He had a sweetheart whom he had wished to marry, but his father Nhliziyo liked him to get married to a maiden of the Hadebe family by the name of Siteya, who was a daughter of Chief Malindi Hadebe Mtimkulu, the counselor of the Hlubi chief Langalibalele. On a certain evening, Nhliziyo called the son to inform him on the desire of his heart and said, Mayagisa. He responded, our father Nhliziyo continued, I think in my heart that you are now old enough to look for a wife with whom will beget children for me. Now my son stands firm on Siteya, the daughter of Malindi at Mtimkulu. I want you to get married to her. His son replied, I am unable to dispute our father. Your will be done, our father, and my wish shall dwindle. Nhliziyo was very happy to get this reply and said, thank you, my son. Tomorrow morning I shall rise, wash my face, hands, and I shall take my sticks, go down to the river where the Hadebe family uses to draw water. There I shall pick up 6 nicely colored stones and go to the homestead of Hadebe. Mayagisa accepted joyfully the words of the father as they agreed to this plan. Mayagisa was a child who obeyed his parents, and were all happy of this respectful child and did not criticize him for anything at home. Everybody loved him. On the next morning, Nhliziyo rose and did what he said. He washed his face and hands, took his sticks and went down to the river where Hadebe family used to draw water. The homestead were not far from each other. It was a short distance. Only he arrived in the morning at the gate of the homestead and asked for permission to enter. After the usual greeting ceremony, Nhliziyo threw stones before Hadebe. Hadebe kept silent, looked at the stones and wondered what would happen. Nhliziyo said, receive your cattle, your men of Mtimkulu. Malindi asked, whom do you want? Nhliziyo replied, I want your daughter Siteya for a short while. Malindi looked silently at the stones, then he called his daughter Siteya. When Siteya came, Hadebe pointed out the stones and said, Siteya, my daughter, you will accept this man. Here are my cattle, which came with Nhliziyo, the son of Mzazela. Siteya asked, Father, do you like these people? He replied to his daughter, yes, my daughter, I like them. She said, the will of your father to be done to me. Then she said to these people, here her tears were flowing because she remembered the promises which had been made to her since her being a girl in her teens. Siteya was a morally good girl who did not sin and was not like the other girls who was like sincere not what she was. She persevered during her entire youth because Jehovah, who is Umveliqangi, watched over her. This child showed great respect to her parents, loved her, and all the people were happy about this maiden. She was a virgin of Jehovah and did not commit any sin in the time of her youth. When she was later baptized, she was named Elizabeth. She was a very great neat person who avoided shameful deeds and loved good ones. She walked in the light of the Lord during her childhood and maidenhood. When she grew up to be old, she was tied up by the Lord's, but she did not understand that God watched over her and why she did it. However, He watched over His Holy Virgin. When she came to marriageable age, she was once alone in the lonely path of the Drakensberg Mountains. There she heard a voice telling her, Siteya, my daughter, don't pollute yourself by drinking beer and premarital sexual intercourse, for you will give birth to a servant of God. His voice sounded from the firmament, but she did not see any person who walked and spoke clearly. She did not understand the meaning of these words, nor did she know where they came from. On another day, the maiden walked together with as many other girls in the wheat harvest of the white farmer, every erected her own bundles. At lunchtime, they all went up to a white farmer's home for their meals. While they were eating, a strong wind came, a gale up. When they returned to the field, all the bundles had fallen on the ground. Only the bundle of Sitaya had remained. And finally, there is a project of the creative arts. I think I once sent a draft of this project. Basically, you have all the artistic institutions scattered around the KZN, around the city of eThekwini, which mainly service the same end user. And so the idea was to bring them together, because when you bring them together, there is an amazing buying power. For example, the Film Commission is in Musgrave. They are renting a 4-story floors in the building there, which then then you have Fashion Council, which used to be located at Umgeni Lion Matches Center, and then you have KZN eThekwini version of Filantuzana, regional office ilapana Smith Street. And then you've got Playhouse also up at the upper part of the heart in the central CBD. You have the Durban Film Office, which is at Victoria Embankment. You have the Durban Fashion Council. It's located at a different space. So all of these institutions are addressing the same needs of artistic needs, but yet they are scattered all over the place. So the challenge about scattering is that the cost then escalates. So instead of the money going to the artist, the money goes to procurement. For example, a Film Commission spends about 4 million in leasing an office. They spend 1.5 million every year in securing security services. They spend 800,000 in cleaning services. So each department is doing the same thing. So the department Playhouse spends almost the same amount of money doing the same thing. So most of the money therefore does not go towards the artists themselves, but it goes to other services which are not addressing the needs of artists. And so if these institutions were to come together and operate under one roof, you would no longer need to pay like 15 institutions, all artistic institutions, each one of them spending 1 million for security. If they if they in one space, one vicinity, one precinct, then you will cut out this unnecessary spending. Then they'll each spend about 10% of the security because they'll have one building. You then need to you don't need to have to procure separate services for this security company. Same thing with the cleaning. So there are wasteful spendings that can be cut off by bringing these artistic institutions together. But the second thing is that in terms of the access, these institutions are not easily accessible, and so we wanted to bring them together. When we talk of service delivery, when we talk of Patupile, you need to be accessible. Musgrave, the central access for everybody is a CBD. The offices of eThekwini, especially those institutions that are in Durban, the central access is either the market or the workshop, and so these institutions are not easily accessible. The other one is at Kutabi Downs, enye say Eshara International Airport, enye Musgrave, and Musgrave you must pay a connected transport to go there. If the institution is at like what tourism has, tourism KZN is in Ushaka Marine, you must pay another 9 rand to go to them from CBD. Durban tourism is also outside, you must pay. So all of these institutions need connected transport, which is unnecessary costing for the patrons and the poor people. And if you look at the Playhouse is still in the CBD, and it has shown that it is possible to maintain international standards while in the CBD. And so the project that we are coming up with is called the Creative Arts Collective Collaboration Precinct. And so we want all of these artistic institutions to come together into one spot, because by so doing you can cut out the unnecessary spending. Government has no money. If we can save 1 rand, 10 rand, 10 million, 50 million, and that will then be translated towards the artists themselves. But also you can't be leasing buildings when we have so many buildings that are vacant in the city. And if the governments are, the parastatals are the ones running away from the city, who else is going to have confidence in the city? And so the bigger picture is that we want to approach or Unilever or we approach or Samsung to come back into investing in the city. We want to bring back the pride of the city. Now, there's one key thing here is that if these institutions come together, a film commission, Tourism KZN receives 138 million every year grant funding. Itala Bank receives 93 million funding. The Playhouse receives 80 million funding every year. KZN Film Commission receives 90 million funding every year. Moses Kotane Institute receives 56 million every year. You then have the eThekwini Arts Regional Office, you have the Durban Art Office, you have the KZN Lottery Board, the Film Publication Board, the KZN Fashion Council, you've got the Durban Film Office, you've got the Tourism Durban. And so there are other institutions that we've targeted that are within the municipal and the government sector. And so what we want to do was to bring them together under one vicinity and possibly look at how best we can come with a plan from the public works, the joint provincial structures, so that at the end of the day, we can, just by these companies on their own, come up with a plan, look at collectively their budget can exceed 1 billion. So if we have over 1 billion to spend, and then you are not paying for any lease, because that's the idea. Then this is how we could possibly make a loan of about 3 billion to bring renovations and a project of an urban renewal and restructuring. And so the project proposal therefore looks at the future of the city, because through the arts you could and tourism you could venture into a very profitable collaboration. And so this is basically what the project is about, to bring all of these various institutions, but also to form a council. One of the things we want to do is we wanted to look at the future of this of unnecessary board membership. You have over 10 institutions. Each of them have an average of 5 to 7 board members. Now, what we wanted to look at is the possibility of having one board and have a one council that serves the interest of fashion, film, and all the artistic needs. And so you have one board that serves the creative arts board, as opposed to having a film board, a fashion board, a Moses Kotane board, a tourism board. You could have one of the membership represented in one board, because we are serving the same citizens in the same city, in the same province. And so we need to find a way where we could have one vision. And obviously we would then create a structure where we would have a channel, a radio channel, and a, what you call a satellite online for the entire artistic vision of KwaZulu-Natal. And through this you could then create a master plan. We will create funding, because if you have a collective board that serves all the artists' need, you have the international funds that are available from the Japanese fund. There's a British arts funding for the funding for the arts. There's an American funding for the arts. And so through this structure you could have one board that drives the interest of all arts in the province. And so you have a master plan and master vision. And so we wanted to create a structure of this nature. And maybe you can give me an idea, my man, of how you could help in terms of putting together. We wanted to put together a video, audio visual, and also put a document in the website, which will be then, we will then have to approach Uli Ndapkosini, the CEO of the Playhouse, and sell this proposal to her. We will then go to the CEO of the Film Commission and the board and the various other institutions that we think can help, so that I didn't think it should be a top-down approach where the premier instructs the CEOs, but rather it should be a way in where we both consult and see how best the structure could be achieved, so that when we meet the premier and the Minister of Arts and Culture, we would have consulted on an ongoing basis how best the structure could work, and how we could create a mall, build a mall around here, how we could look at improving the access of this existing structure of the theme park, and how we could switch offices in collaboration with public works. There are buildings. I am a lawyer, for example, so we could move these offices and exchange them and make this a purely artistic and tourism project, so that we could bring back the people who are far away, so that they are easily accessible. And also, so I think, my man, just please have a look at this, and then we'll talk later. Sharp. The PRECINCT in the eThekwini, the heart of the city. The proposed name is the Creative Arts Collective and Tourism PRECINCT. Hello and welcome from Ubuntu Project. We have a program of urban renewal that is aimed at developing and addressing the urban decay in the city of eThekwini and KwaZulu. This will be a private-public partnership, which will include public companies, private companies, and the government. So our vision really is to try and bring safety, integrated collaborations between various stakeholders into bringing hope and life in the city that it once possessed. We've chosen a particular space within the CBD, and we are going to be showing how various stakeholders will participate. The vision is to create a one-stop shop for all the art and artistic institutions where they could exist in one area, a precinct of the collective and creative arts and tourism in one space. Now, these are institutions that are not competing with each other. They are all serving the same citizen, the same end user, but the way they are so scattered across the same comes at a very, very high cost, and it's very annoying. The Film Commission is at Musgrave, which is far from Excel. The Fashion Council used to be at Umgeni. The Durban Film Office is located at the old Esplanade. The KZN Arts and Culture Office is at Moses Kotane Institute is close to the International Shaka Airport, which is far from access. It could be brought closer. Now, the most important thing for investments is that there has to be a stability and confidence from the government itself before any private sector can come in. If there is no safety, there is chaos, there is lack of collaborations within the government institutions, then it becomes harder for the governments, for private sector to come and invest. But if the same government institutions who are the custodians are the ones living the city, then the entire things collapse. Because if the government institutions have left to the city, then it becomes harder for investors to then come in and invest. And that's where the issues of service delivery come into play. In the CBD, for example, many institutions used to be in the CBD and they've since left. That gives a less confidence into the entire city, but it also collapses the city functions and its services, because if everybody is leaving, then there are challenges. There is theft, there is safety concerns. If you cannot walk in the city, that's not a city. And so one of the projects that we want to do is that we want to bring back the government institutions so that they have to be in the forefront in terms of campaigning to coming back to the CBD. For example, you have tourism KwaZulu-Natal who used to be in the CBD. I'm not sure in terms of the leadership structures of these institutions who wakes up in the morning and decides that they have to go into a place which is out of access. Because one of the most crucial point when making a decision into a building is you look at the service delivery and you somehow have to work out the ease of access for commuters, the ease of access for the poor. That is basically how you come up with a plan on where and how you should move your offices. So what is the most ideal, perfect, accessible space for patrons, for the poor, for the commuters in Durban, eThekwini? Now, clearly, all taxis from all townships, Kwamashu, Kumlazi, Chesterville, Mayville, Bonella, Tuzuma, everywhere you come from, even Ladysmith, if you enter into Durban, there are only two spaces that are easily accessible. That is, all taxi routes, all bus routes, all train routes starts from the workshop and they end in the market. Sometimes it's the other way around. They start in the market and end in the workshop. So ideally, in terms of positioning a government access, you have to have offices either in the workshop area, anywhere within the workshop, so that people can easily walk and access the services, or within the market area. So if your offices are not there, then we are not helping in this crisis that we have of service delivery. You are making it harder by moving your offices in exclusive venues where no one can access, and it is costing people more money which they don't have. For example, if you move your offices into Musgrave, it means a patron, based on the average cost, will have to pay 8 rand more just to get to those offices, and a further 1 hour of inconvenience of travel time, and then they have to pay back another 8 rand to come back. If you move your offices to Shaka Marine, same story. You will have to pay 9 rand to go to those Shaka Marine in addition. And so if the offices are within the workshop or the market area, then all transports end in the workshop and the market. So there is no additional cost into the patrons and the poor people. And so it is easy access. I think if we miss this most crucial point, and that's where we have challenges, because you decide you wake up in the morning and say, oh, my child goes to Palito, let me have my school in Palito. My child, my cousin lives in Umhlanga, let's move the offices there. That's not how you decide. You look at where is the 90% access of the public transport, the buses. Where do they end? Where do they start? You look at the taxis. Where do they end? Where do they start? You look at the trains. Where is the easy access? That is how you make a decision. Nothing else, nothing more. And so what you have now is, in the past, you had tourism KwaZulu-Natal, which used to be easily accessed in the CBD. It was located at the Tourism Junction Center. They decided to move the offices, which is an inconvenience to a patron. I'm not sure how they make their decisions. They move their offices, now costing a patron close to 20 rand more just to access their services, and further time wasted. Then Tourism Durban, also what used to be in the heart of the city, they decided to move their offices outside to Florida Road, which is an inconvenience and unnecessary cost to the consumers, and it loses confidence into the city, because if I cannot access your services easily, I must now pay more money to travel to you, and time wasted. So this is what comes into service delivery, that we are unable to serve the people. We are not putting the people first, but we're putting our interests first. So the Batupile principles have been failed in this regard, because we are not making access easy for the ordinary people. And then you have Moses Kotane. Moses Kotane is not easily accessible as well. They are out far in the city. They used to be in Derby Downs in Westville, which is way out of access, and you will need to have 2 connected taxis just to get there. And by bus, it is impossible to go there by bus. There is no direct buses there. By train, there is no access there. And so you need to have more money to get to the government offices, which is a bit unfortunate. And then the next institution is the Fashion Council. The Fashion Council of KZN used to be outside the access that we are talking about, which is, they used to be in Umgeni, so they are also easily accessible. So these institutions are hard to access, and it is a hassle to access them. So these are all artistic and innovation institutions which can be located in one venue, and by so doing you will save billions and billions of rands in the next 50 years. And so the next also important structure is an institution. Moses Kotane further moved from Westville, and they moved to Ushaka. They moved to the airport. So and now they are making it harder and harder to be accessed, and so ordinary people are supposed to access your services easily, conveniently, and we've failed dismally to do that, and we are costing the taxpayer billions by so doing. And so part of the reasons, the strategy is to look at how best we can put a one-stop shop where all the arts, all the artistic institutions, all the innovation institutions can be accessed within one space and one venue. Hence, we are putting together this proposal of this precinct, because if you can walk in easily, then we avoid duplications of services, and we make access easy for everybody. Firstly, we must understand that governments have no money, so every rand counts. Where we can save money, let's do so. If it means going back to the CBD, let's do so.
Sometimes it's amazing how much beauty and creativity can come out of brutality and torture. But that's the story of the Robben Island Singers. Robben Island, that's an infamous prison in South Africa.
Your beautiful harmony, the harmony that you sing, that African harmony, where does that harmony come from? How old is it?
Yes,
That is spelled M-S-U-M-A-L-O.
Yes, Malo. You speak like a poet, you seem like a gentle person, but you were a soldier.
I was a political prisoner on Robben Island.
For 9 years?
For 9 years, yes.
10 years. I stayed 13 years in prison.
I let him play my guitar and we became instant friends because he liked something that I liked too.
Tula,